Beneath every quiet garden lies another realm, a hidden civilization older than any city humans have ever built. When you press your hand to the soil, you're touching more than dirt. You're touching an ancient conversation, one still unfolding in silence. Beneath that thin crust of earth, billions of lives move, unseen microbes whispering through moisture, fungi weaving threads of lightless connection, roots groping through darkness, like blind explorers searching for kin. It is a world without sound, yet it hums with meaning. Each grain of soil holds history. The ash of old forests, the memory of rain, the breath of creatures long returned to dust. Most people never look down long enough to see it. To them, soil is something to clean off a nuisance, not a universe. But within a single handful lives more life than there are humans on Earth. It is here that every seed's destiny is written, in the invisible chemistry between decay and rebirth. Humus, the soft, rich layer formed by death transformed, is the language nature speaks when it wants to build again. Around each root tip, a network of mycorrhizal fungi stretches like a nervous system beneath the world, carrying messages, warnings, gifts of sugar and mineral. These hidden exchanges decide whether a garden thrives or quietly fails. To understand soil is to understand the balance of all things. Each root breathes in rhythm with the sky above it, drawing strength from decomposed leaves, fallen rain, and forgotten time. Even air moves here, sinking into tunnels made by worms, feeding invisible lungs that never rest. The soil is alive, patient, creative, self-healing, but it can also die if we treat it as lifeless. When we pour chemicals, when we strip it bare, we silence that ancient conversation. The ground beneath us remembers everything. So before you plant, listen. Kneel and let the earth's scent rise like an old memory. Beneath your fingers, life is waiting to be awakened, countless worlds depending on your care. And yet, even this living soil can fall silent. The narrator's voice softens, a faint unease beneath the calm. But even the richest earth can die in silence, unless you learn how to bring it to life again. Every banana peel, every fallen leaf, a hidden promise waiting to return as green life. Composting begins with that quiet recognition that nothing in nature truly ends. What looks like decay is only transformation, a secret rhythm that every forest already knows by heart. If soil is a body, compost is its breath, the constant exchange of what once was into what will be. The garden, like all living things, survives by the generosity of death. When you build a compost pile, you're not making waste disappear. You're building a bridge between endings and beginnings. The dry brown leaves bring their brittle memory of sunlight rich in carbon, the slow-burning energy of life gone still. The soft green scraps, the grass clippings, the kitchen peelings, they carry nitrogen, the pulse of growth and hunger. Together, they dance in a perfect equation, one offering structure, the other spark. Too much carbon, and the pile sleeps cold. Too much nitrogen, and it burns with impatience. Between them lies harmony, a living warmth that turns rot into rebirth. Soon the pile begins to breathe. Invisible workers awaken bacteria first, simple and tireless. They multiply within hours, releasing heat that curls into the cool morning air. Fungi follow, weaving filaments through the mix, breaking down what seems immovable. Then come the larger citizens, beetles, centipedes, worms, each turning death into smaller, humbler pieces. Beneath their labor, matter becomes memory. The smell changes too, sharp and sour fading into the soft, earthy perfume of rain and forest floor. It is a scent that tells you transformation is complete, that the chaos of decay has found its order again. To the untrained eye, compost is mess. But to those who watch closely, it's alchemy. Every handful holds chemistry as complex as any laboratory. Molecules binding, heat rising, water whispering through fragments of what once was food or leaf or stem. Even the air that flows through it must be measured. Compost suffocates if it's too wet, starves if it's too dry. Balance is not a theory here, it's survival. Stir it, breathe it, feel its pulse. The more attention you give, the more life it returns. In ancient cultures, this process was never seen as waste management. It was ritual. Farmers offered the first fallen harvest back to the earth, trusting it would rise again. They believed each act of decomposition was watched by unseen guardians of soil, the quiet gods of fertility and renewal. Today, when we compost, we join that same invisible lineage, not through belief, but through understanding. Every peel, every leaf, every grain of time you return to the ground becomes part of something vaster than yourself. And when you spread that finished compost across your garden, it does more than feed your plants. It feeds the soil's soul, replenishing the microbial nations that give roots strength, healing wounds carved by neglect. Plants grown in such earth glow differently. Their leaves seem steadier, their scent deeper. The difference is not just visible, it's alive beneath your fingertips. The narrator's tone softens now, carrying the rhythm of closure and preparation. The garden, once a silent watcher, begins to breathe more deeply. The soil has been fed, its ancient hunger met with patience and care. Yet life still needs something more: movement, air, the unseen currents that give it pulse. The earth is fed, the voice murmurs, fading into stillness. Now the roots must breathe. Most gardens die not from thirst, but from kindness. Water, given too freely, drowns more dreams than drought ever could. Beneath the soil, roots breathe like lungs, drawing in the invisible air that keeps them alive. When the earth is soaked without rest, that air is chased away, and the roots suffocate in silence. The gardener sees green leaves wilting and assumes thirst, yet what the plant needs is not more water, but more space to breathe. Watering, then, is not a chore. It is an art, a conversation between sky and soil, rhythm and restraint. Every drop that falls carries a message, and every garden learns to listen differently. Morning is its purest hour, when the world still glistens with dew. The sun has not yet risen high enough to steal the moisture, and the air hums with renewal. To water, then, is to follow nature's script, to let the droplets sink gently, feeding the roots while the day still dreams. Evening watering, though calm and tempting, can invite decay. Moisture that lingers overnight becomes a cradle for mold, a whisper of rot. Yet in lands of dry heat, twilight becomes mercy-proof that even the rules of care must bend to place and time. Watch how rain behaves. It rarely rushes. It begins with a hush, a soft rehearsal of drips before surrendering into rhythm. The best gardeners imitate this patience. They let water rest upon the surface, seeping slowly, sinking deep enough to reach the hidden thirst below. Quick showers only cool the skin. True watering touches the heart. Beneath that calm surface, capillary action carries each droplet through tiny tunnels, delivering oxygen, nutrients, and life itself. There's a sound to good watering faint, like paper sighing. Leaves respond, trembling under mist, their pores widening in quiet gratitude. On days of heat, you'll see how the soil darkens and brightens again, how each patch tells a story of balance or neglect. A well-watered garden feels alive even when silent moisture deep where it matters, dryness above to guard against waste. It's the same balance rain achieves without thought, the same wisdom deserts hold in stillness. To water wisely is to surrender control. It's learning that life does not thrive through excess, but through measured generosity. In that gentle act, the tilt of a can, the rhythm of drops, the gardener becomes part of the weather, a brief participant in the world's oldest ritual. The narrator's tone drifts into reverence. The camera lingers on droplets sliding down a stem, catching the first glint of sunlight. The voice fades like mist. Water gives life, but light teaches it how to live. The way your garden breathes and glows decides how it will live or fade. Light and air, the unseen architects of every leaf and petal, shape the quiet destiny of what grows beneath them. Sunlight is more than warmth. It is memory and direction. Each beam tells a story of movement rising in the east with soft invitation, bending westward with tired gold. Plants remember this rhythm. Their stems tilt toward hope, their leaves turn to follow the sky's slow conversation. To place a garden without reading the light is to speak without listening. East-facing beds wake gently, kissed by morning sun and cooled by afternoon shade, perfect for the tender and the new. South-facing plots blaze with endurance, feeding fruits and vegetables that crave long days and fierce heat. The north stays quiet, a haven for those who prefer whispers of light ferns, mints, mosses. Even shadows are part of the design, drawing outlines where brightness would overwhelm. Every gardener, knowingly or not, arranges a symphony of light and rest. But sunlight alone is a sculptor with no hands. Without air, the glow suffocates. Airflow, unseen but essential, is the breath that keeps disease at bay and keeps stems strong. In the stillness of trapped humidity, mildew blooms like a slow curse, and leaves begin to weep beneath invisible weight. Yet when air moves freely weaving between stems, brushing the undersides of leaves, it carries away what would harm and leaves behind renewal. Nature learned this long before humans drew fences. In forests, trees space themselves in quiet geometry. Their crowns stretch toward light, but never all at once. Each allows enough shadow for the next. Wind moves through the canopy like a slow tide, pruning without cruelty, cooling without taking. A forest is not crowded, it is choreographed, and so should your garden be. Spacing is not about neatness, it is about breath. When you prune, you are not cutting life away, you are giving it room to grow. A single branch removed may let sunlight reach 100 hidden leaves. A little open space may invite a breeze that saves the whole. Observe how your garden responds, how the air hums differently when it can move, how light dances when it finds a path. To read your garden's light is to understand its moods. To guide its air is to let it heal itself. Together they form the invisible architecture of thriving life, a cathedral of wind and glow, built anew each morning. As air moves through leaves, it carries stories of resilience and whispers the next secret. Not all plants belong everywhere. What if your plants could protect each other without you lifting a finger? Nature has whispered this secret for centuries, though few have truly listened. In every thriving forest or meadow, unseen alliances bloom beneath the surface. Roots twist and intertwine, not in competition, but in communion. Each plant offers what another lacks: scent, shade, or strength, forming a living network of defense and generosity. This is the quiet intelligence of companion planting, the science of friendship written in green. Take the tomato and basil, two very different spirits, sharing one patch of earth. The tomato reaches upward, sun-hungry and bold, while basil curls low, its fragrance thick as incense. That scent is more than charm, it's armor. It confuses pests that would otherwise find the tomato's tender leaves. In return, the tomato shades the soil, keeping basil cool through the heat of the day. They thrive not by fighting for survival, but by weaving it together. Around them, marigolds stand like sentinels, their golden heads bright but purposeful. Beneath the soil, their roots release chemicals that drive away nematodes, tiny unseen worms that would devour the roots of others. Even death has meaning here. When marigold petals fall, they feed the very life they once guarded. This harmony is not luck, it's language. Every plant speaks through scent, through soil, through the slow breath of photosynthesis. Some release oils that repel invaders. Others attract pollinators that sustain their neighbors. Beans fix nitrogen into the ground, feeding the greedy hunger of corn. Tall sunflowers draw bees from afar, ensuring smaller flowers nearby find love too. What looks random to the untrained eye is, in truth, choreography, a silent conversation between allies. And the lesson, whispered in every root, is this: health doesn't come from isolation, but from diversity. A garden that welcomes difference becomes stronger, just as a forest becomes resilient through variety. Monocultures, rows upon rows of the same plant, may seem efficient, but they are fragile empires waiting for collapse. A single pest, a single drought, and the harmony shatters. But a garden of many of herbs, flowers, and vegetables mingling becomes its own ecosystem, self-balancing, self-healing. The gardener's role is not command, but curation. To plant companions is to trust that life knows how to care for itself when given space to cooperate. It is less control, more conversation, less ownership, more participation. When you garden this way, you stop forcing nature to obey and start learning how it thinks. The camera drifts low, showing roots crossing like clasped hands beneath the soil. Above, wind moves softly through mingled leaves. The narrator smiles through the quiet. The healthiest gardens are built on friendship, but even friends need boundaries. Your garden is a living architecture, and every leaf is a blueprint. In nature, nothing grows by accident. Every vine, every trunk, every fallen leaf finds its place in a grand design that balances shade and sun, moisture and air. The forest teaches this better than any manual. Tall trees drink the full light, spreading broad canopies that cool the soil. Beneath them, shrubs find shelter, herbs hug the roots, and moss gathers where shadow meets dew. Every layer serves another, one guarding, one feeding, one breathing. The gardener's challenge is to recreate that invisible order, to turn chaos into quiet harmony. Spacing is where this design begins. Crowded roots compete, spaced ones converse. Each plant needs its circle of air and soil, a personal horizon where its roots can explore freely. Too close, and they suffocate each other, locked in a silent struggle for water and light. Too far, and the soil between them dries, unprotected, forgotten. The art lies in observation, watching how light falls through the day, how shadows stretch and fade. A well-spaced garden feels like a conversation, no voice too loud, no silence too long. Then comes structure, the bones of growth. Trellises, stakes, and frames are not just supports, they are the architecture of ambition. Vines, like beans or cucumbers, seek the sky but need direction. Offer them height, and they will rise. Deny it, and they will sprawl, tangled and weary. Each upward climb frees the soil below, allowing herbs or lettuce to claim the shaded earth. In that tiered design, the garden breathes like a cathedral, light filtering through layers, roots deepening as leaves ascend. Even the ground deserves pattern. Mulch keeps moisture from fleeing, just as forest litter holds the rain. Low-growing herbs act as guardians, keeping the soil cool while releasing fragrance that confuses pests. Their scent mingles with the damp breath of earth, forming a kind of living perfume that speaks of balance. Where order meets softness, growth thrives. This is not control, it's translation. You are not imposing symmetry, but discovering rhythm, the same one that guides rivers and wind. The structure you build should feel inevitable, as if the plants themselves asked for it. Every stake driven into the soil, every measured distance, should echo nature's quiet geometry. And when the structure settles, when shade finds balance with sun and every leaf knows its place, the garden hums. Beneath the peace, unseen energies stir, roots binding deeper, insects gathering, tiny dramas unfolding in secret. For now, the world seems calm. Yet even in perfect order, life invites challenge. The narrator's voice lowers, threaded with a subtle warning. As your garden begins to grow in harmony, a quiet battle begins, one you cannot see. Every pest tells you a story if you know how to listen. The first instinct of most gardeners is war, to see the chewed leaf, the crawling beetle, the unseen worm as an invader to be destroyed. Yet nature never declares enemies, it only speaks in signals. When an army of aphids appears, it is not rebellion, it is revelation. Something is out of balance. The soil may be weary, the air too still, the diversity too thin. Pests do not appear from nowhere. They arrive where imbalance invites them, like smoke following fire. Look closely, and you'll see that the garden already carries its own defenders. Ladybugs, silent and precise, drift across leaves like healers inspecting wounds. Each one devours hundreds of aphids, not from cruelty, but from equilibrium. Spiders spin their silver snares between stems, waiting without malice. Birds drop in from the morning sky, clearing caterpillars before breakfast. They ask for nothing but space to work. But when humans rush in sprays, powders, poisons, that ancient balance breaks. The defenders retreat, and the pests remain, stronger, wiser, immune. The war becomes endless because it was never meant to be fought. A healthy garden is a negotiation, not a battlefield. Trap crops, for instance, are offering small sacrifices that divert harm from your main plants. Nasturtiums can lure aphids away from beans. Radishes can distract flea beetles from tender greens. These decoys feed the cycle, satisfying hunger without destruction. The gardener's job is not to annihilate, but to redirect, to invite predators and companions instead of chemical control. A spritz of diluted neem, a mist of soap and water, becomes not punishment, but balance restored. Even weeds, those quiet rebels, sometimes protect the soil from erosion and heat. Patience is not weakness here, it's wisdom learned from the forest. In the wild, no one sprays. The forest does not panic when moths lay eggs on its leaves. It trusts time. It trusts that every rise has a fall, every population a predator. The forest's secret is observation. It watches without interference until harmony returns. The same truth applies to your garden. Watch before you act. Learn what the imbalance is telling you. Sometimes, the cure is simply space, air, or rest. To see pests as teachers is to see yourself as part of the ecosystem, not its master. The bite on a leaf, the shimmer of a web, the flutter of wings, these are not signs of loss, but of life continuing its dialogue. A garden without flaws is not alive, it's sterile. The camera holds on a droplet glinting on a leaf, a ladybug pausing in its reflection. The voice softens into a steady calm. When nature defends herself, the garden learns endurance, but even endurance bends before the storm. The weather doesn't destroy gardens, it reveals the strength of the gardener. Every gust of wind, every sudden frost, every drought that cracks the soil is not a punishment, but a lesson. The earth tests those who tend it, shaping patience and humility one season at a time. A true gardener learns not to resist the weather, but to dance with it to understand its patterns, anticipate its moods, and weave its chaos into design. Rain is mercy until it turns relentless. Sunlight is blessing until it burns. Between those extremes lies the art of adaptation. Mulch, soft and silent, becomes the garden's first armor. Spread across the soil, it holds moisture when days are cruelly dry, and tempers floods when rain forgets to stop. Each layer, straw, leaves, compost is both blanket and memory, protecting roots from temperature's sudden shifts. Above, a simple shade cloth stretches like a guardian wing, filtering the harshest rays while letting the softer light in. These small gestures are not defenses against nature, they are conversations with it, quiet agreements between survival and surrender. Raised beds offer another kind of resilience. They lift the roots above flooded ground, warming faster in spring, draining faster in storms. Their wooden frames echo the logic of riverbanks, giving boundaries where chaos would otherwise flow. Within them, the gardener learns control without arrogance shaping the environment, but never defying it. Beneath the surface, roots grow deeper, anchoring not just plants, but confidence. Then there are the perennials, the wise ones of the garden. They return year after year, bearing scars from storms past, teaching endurance through example. Their deep roots find moisture long after annuals wilt. Their leaves harden against heat and wind. To plant perennials is to invest in time itself to build a garden that remembers, learns, and forgives. Climate is no longer a distant conversation, it's a neighbor whose voice grows louder each year. Seasons blur, rains delay, and frosts arrive uninvited. Yet even in this uncertainty, adaptation thrives. The gardener studies the patterns, the shifting winds, the new timing of blooms and adjusts. To survive change is to accept that nature will always be the greater designer. The goal is not control, but conversation, not perfection, but participation. And when the storm finally comes, tearing petals and bending stems, something unspoken awakens. Resilience is not beauty preserved, it's beauty remade. Broken stalks sprout new shoots. Fallen leaves enrich the soil, even the destruction becomes seed. As the storm passes and sunlight returns, the narrator's tone softens. The garden, battered but breathing, glows with quiet gratitude. Asterisk. A gardener begins to see the real lesson. Growth is a reflection of care. Asterisk. The garden grows in silence, and so do we. What begins as a patch of soil soon becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the seasons, but the inner landscape of the one who tends it. In the beginning, every gardener hurries. Seeds are planted, watered, and watched with restless eyes, as though staring harder might make them rise faster. But the earth ignores impatience. It moves at its own pace, slow, deliberate, ancient. In its stillness, it begins to teach. Patience is the first lesson. Beneath the surface, the seed splits, unsure of the light above. Days pass with nothing to see, yet everything is happening. Roots creep downward before life dares to reach upward. The gardener learns this rhythm slowly, that growth happens in hidden places first. Those who quit too early never witness the quiet miracle of unfolding. Time, not effort, is the true fertilizer. Observation is the second lesson. To garden well is to learn to see what others overlook: the faint curl of a leaf that warns of thirst, the way shadows shift through the day, the scent that changes before rain. Over time, the gardener's eyes sharpen, not through study, but through surrender. Observation replaces control. You begin to realize that watching is not waiting, it is participation. Every morning walk through the garden becomes a meditation on change, on the quiet pulse of life's persistence. Then comes rhythm, the deeper wisdom beneath both patience and observation. It is the understanding that everything moves in cycles: bloom and decay, sun and shade, fullness and rest. The garden is not a machine that must produce endlessly. It is a breathing being, needing pause as much as growth. In its pauses, the gardener finds their own. The act of watering, pruning, harvesting it becomes less a routine and more a ritual. You move with the rhythm of wind and bird call, guided by the heartbeat of seasons. This rhythm seeps into life beyond the soil. Those who once rushed begin to slow. Those who once sought perfection begin to accept imperfection as beauty. The garden teaches humility, that no matter how skilled you become, nature always has the final word. A sudden frost, a broken stem, a bloom arriving late, each reminds you that control is an illusion and care is the only constant. And so, in tending the earth, something within is tended too. The soil grows fertile and the spirit grows calm. The narrator's voice fades with a tone of knowing peace. As patience roots deeper, wisdom blooms, and from that wisdom emerges mastery. The expert gardener isn't the one who knows everything, but the one who keeps learning from every leaf. True mastery in the garden is not control, but conversation. Each season is a new dialect of that same ancient language, one spoken through decay and renewal, silence and bloom. The soil breathes beneath the surface, remembering the hands that shaped it, the rain that softened it, the roots that once called it home. It teaches that nothing is ever lost, only transformed. Mastery begins where certainty ends. The gardener who stops seeking perfection starts to see patterns instead. The same curl of light that once touched the first seedlings, the same shadow that cooled the soil before a storm. Over time, repetition becomes revelation. You begin to recognize that the cycle itself: sprout, flourish, wither, rest, is the lesson. Life is not about avoiding loss, but participating in its rhythm. The fallen leaf is not failure. It's the blueprint of next year's bloom. In this quiet awareness, the act of gardening becomes something deeper than care. It becomes reflection. Each gesture mirrors the gardener's own growth. Pruning is learning to let go. Watering is learning when enough is enough. Waiting is learning to trust unseen progress. The weeds that return each year remind us that effort must be constant, but never desperate. Mastery is not a finish line. It's a conversation that never stops asking questions. The garden rewards those who listen. The hum of bees at dusk, the rustle of stems in wind, the hush before rain, these are lessons disguised as sounds. Light still teaches, weather still sculpts, and the soil, patient as time, keeps forgiving our mistakes. The gardener becomes both student and witness, part of a lineage stretching back to when hands first met earth. Even decay, once feared, becomes sacred. Compost piles steam with rebirth, dead stems feed the living, and what once withered becomes foundation. The gardener learns that endings are simply beginnings folded inside themselves. To master this truth is to master peace, the understanding that all things move in circles, never lines. As evening settles, the camera drifts over the garden one last time, leaves trembling in twilight, soil dark and breathing, a droplet sliding from petal to earth. The narrator's voice, soft and certain, lingers like a final breeze. To garden well is to live wisely. You learn not only how to grow, but how to endure, how to forgive, how to begin again. Mastery is not the crown of knowledge, it is the return to wonder. The light fades. Only stillness remains, full of unseen life waiting to awaken. And so, the garden sleeps tonight, but beneath its silence, everything still grows.